For this video, I'm going to be adding a new solar panel to my collection, and what I am basically doing, I had originally bought two micro-inverter panels, and I recently purchased an additional 5 panels that had the microinverter and the battery commander. One of those panels was actually broken when it arrived, and so if you ignore this bottom line right here, what I ended up doing is I ended up installing the 5 battery commander panels and one of the inverter only panels, and that is how I've been operating recently. And so you can see that what I've got on here, I've got basically the panel on the west end excuse me, and then as you go to the east, I had the microinverter only panel on the east end. And the reason for this is the location of the hole that I have in the roof. That way I can put the batteries closer to the ones of the battery commanders. And so I just set the one up on the east end as the one that did not have the battery commander. And if we look at where we're at on the actual Legion Solar app, what I've done is I have ordered each one of the battery commanders so that it is from west to east. If you notice, the west battery command, or the west inverter, is 126 and the battery commander is 586. Sure enough, you can see that this is 126 and 586. Here we have the next one's 116, 241. You can see that we have 116 and 241. And going all the way down to the end, the final inverter is 716, and you can see that the one that I had on the east is 716. What I've done though is I have added the new panel that was reshipped. I've put it on the extreme western end, and this is the inverter ID for it. Now whenever we go into the Legion Solar app, if you look into setup, there's no way that you can choose the positioning whenever you actually add a panel to your system. And so what that means is that I am going to have to delete all of the panels that I have on the Legion Solar app and actually start in again. And so you can see that right here, if we go to, I clicked on Setup Inverter and Battery Commander, you can see that that will actually delete and replace all current inverters and battery commanders. And so that's the option that I'm going to take. So whenever I choose that, I thought I had chosen that. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes. Okay, processing. This may take several minutes. So you can see what we've got going on here. It looks to me like it's talking to each one of the microinverters and probably turning them off and shutting them down. I don't know for sure, but this is simply saying that it's processing and it may take several minutes. One interesting thing that I'll talk about while this is taking place though, whenever I added the additional panel, I think that I had screwed the microinverter into the T-harness a little bit incorrectly, and it actually caused the breaker to blow. And this was a couple days ago, and it was very cold and it was getting dark whenever all that happened. And so I ended up just leaving the breaker off. And during that time, these 5 battery commanders right here, the solar panels still collect energy, but instead of feeding it back into offset grid usage, it was just fed directly into the batteries. So the batteries were fully charged today, and whenever I got everything fixed and got the breaker turned back on, the battery commanders knew that the batteries were full, so all of the energy was actually going to just offset grid usage. In my experience, the battery commander solar panels always prefer to charge the battery commander versus offsetting grid usage. So no matter how much grid usage you're actually using, if the batteries are not full, any panel that you've got that has a battery commander on it is going to be charging the battery. And I'm assuming that they make that choice just so that they will have energy to offset the nighttime usage. But it's just something that you need to be aware of. During the day, if you have battery commander panels and the batteries are not full, you are not going to be offsetting grid usage unless you have some inverter only panels. I happen to have a couple of inverter only panels, so I am confident that those will continue offsetting grid usage during the day. You can see that this is processing and it's still saying that it may take several minutes. This little circle here in the center has been slowly growing, so I'm assuming that that will go ahead and continue. But until that finishes, I'm going to go ahead and pause and then I'll be back. So the app just returned to this screen. I don't know what that means. Don't know if that means that it had removed everything, but oops. Oh, there we go. Okay. So how many sets do I have? I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So interesting thing here, you don't just hit submit. You hit that right there, and then you punch in 7. Now, I want these panels to be listed in the app going from west to east. And so what that means is that the first panel set is going to be inverter only, and it's going to be this guy right here that's on the west end. So we go with micro-inverter, and then it wants the inverter ID. Again, make sure that you press here and don't press submit. And then for that, I'm going to put in 100933. So 100933. Okay. Do that and hit submit. And with any luck, it will tell us that it is set up. Okay, it did not like that. So let's retry that. I do have the inverter ID incorrectly. Sometimes this does happen. I think it happened before and I ended up having to completely restart the process, and then it just magically worked. 100933. Okay, it failed again. And you can see that whenever we look at the Legion Solar app, it is showing that everything is red, which indicates that it does not think that things are set up. I thought I'd move it up just a hair there just to see if it does happen to be a range thing. So we hit retry. And it failed again. So I will retry this one more time. And this happens. Like I said, this isn't the first time that I've seen this, so I'm not terribly surprised. So I'm going to have to do some debugging. Again, I will pause this and I will be back. So what I did is I closed the app and restarted it, and it looks like it has just basically completely reset the app, because this is always the first thing that you see whenever you're doing this, is it wants you to create your 4-digit password. So I will go ahead and do that. And whenever we submit that, it's wanting to know where the system is located. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to United States. And now we're on step 2 again. So it's back to wanting to know how many sets we have. One 100933. And it failed again. So once more I will pause this and do some more debugging. Okay, after hitting retry a few times, it pops up a little screen that says attempting to locate inverter. This may take several minutes. And then I got this where it says, do you want it? It apparently found it finally. Then it says, do you want to test it? So let's go ahead and tell it yes. Okay, so it passed that, and boom, we're on to the next set. So for 2 is actually going to be this one that I have labeled west. So let's go ahead and put that in. So first it wants the battery commander. 586. Submit. Okay, it found that. Then it wants the inverter. So then you do the inverter. Oops. So I'm on this Western right here. So you have 101, 126. Submit. Okay, so that's the basic process. I'm not going to go ahead and show you the rest of these setups, but I will be back whenever I have all of them ready to go. Okay, we have another one that has failed, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it to retry. Failed, tell it to retry, and it just magically got it that time. So there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're on 5. So let's look at that one. This is obviously not very exciting. You get 245. You want 101,079. The rest of these will probably work. Oh, there we go. Okay. So 101,079. So that is correct. So I'm going to hit, so you can see right here, I'm going to hit retry right now. So you can see that it's sending a message to the inverter. This thing that you get right here means that it's trying to send a message to, and there's one right here if it gets a message from. So I'm going to hit retry again because it failed, and you can see that. The one in the center means that the solar regulator is talking to the app. So there you can kind of see that. And it's now on the attempting to locate inverter. This may take several minutes. And you can see that it's just going crazy with that. I don't know if it's trying all the numbers around there or what it's doing. Okay, but whatever it was, it worked. So it got it. So for 6 we have 800, 604. And then we have 101,069. And it got it. And then for 7, this one is the one that is microinverter only. So we choose that. And you have 1, 6. Okay. So I got that. I'm going to test it. It apparently only does tests on the inverter onlys. So this is how far down you want it to actually draw down the batteries that you've got. I'm going to go with 18 on that. I've tried setting this via the utility after you actually have the thing up and going, but it doesn't seem to actually take the new value. So we'll just leave that on 18 there. It says to complete your setup, proceed. Excuse me. And now you can see that the light at the bottom has switched to green, which tells me that the solar regulator thinks that it is set up. And there you can see that it's talking to the app, and it was talking to the various inverters there for a second. And on the app we're still just showing processing. So nothing terribly interesting with that. And I will pause it and I'll be back whenever it finishes processing. You can see that our blue bar moved over a little bit. Apparently that blue bar is associated with whatever it's doing with each one of the sets of panels. It's a bit of a slow process. So the bar just made it all the way over, and then it slid back to starting again, and it seems to be moving quite a bit faster this time. One of the annoyances with resetting everything like this is that you lose the data from everything that you've done before, and so that's not real fun. Okay, I paused it for a second there because I knew that the calibration step requires there to be a significant enough load on the system. Yeah, they say requires minimum load and stable power usage. So I basically just went and turned a whole bunch of lights on. So let's choose method 1. And you can see what it says here. It requires a minimum of 240 watts load per phase. And I think we should be with that. So let's go ahead and click on calibrate. And then it is wanting the passcode. I guess that it just likes for that to be on there. Setting all B, C battery commanders to RM1. So that's what load I currently have on my system. So it's just testing that. I have one phase that is obviously pulling quite a bit more than the others. So it's going to go through all of the various inverters now, and it's just going to test them. And this has to be done whenever it's sunny out. And you can see that we have a fair amount of sun right now. And really it's just going to sit here and go through each one of these. Now I've had some cases in the past where it has not actually been able to finish, so I'm hoping that it's able to finish this time. But we'll see how all of that goes. And I will be back when we're closer to the end. Same thing as before. You can see that we've got the blue bar there that seems to be moving along as it is finishing each inverter. I think that's probably finished one of the inverters now, and it is just taking measurements on everything else and seeing how everything gets calibrated. And you can see that it was working on inverter 3 and it's saying that it failed. So whenever you hit recalibrate, it basically kind of starts over again. And this is a process that takes quite a while for it to go through, and so you might just end up without actually calibrating things, and there's not a whole lot that you can do about that. You just kind of have to live with it. But that's what it's doing. Okay, you can see that this time around it failed on inverter 2. And each time I'd say that it's probably taking, I don't know, 5 minutes. I might try to find a little clock that I can set next to this so that you can see how long it's taking for each one of these failures. Ooh, that one happened very quick. Timeout, timeout. Yeah, okay, so we hit recalibrate. There you go. Failed again. It is 1:11 and 45 seconds. 1:12 and 25 seconds. You can see that there's still a fair amount of sun outside, so I don't think it's failing for that particular reason. (1:14 and 49 seconds). Okay, this is a new message, inconsistent calibration. It's 1:17 and 31 seconds. It's possible that this is my fault though, because I just ran the microwave, and one of the things that they said to not do was drastically change the load. So it's possible that that one's actually my fault. So it appears that we've made it past the first inverter based on the blue bar that we have. It is unclear to me why the app needs to restart the calibration every single time if it fails, but not enough sunlight. It is 1:20 and 48 seconds, and it reset everything back to 0. I will say that I don't think that I have yet successfully calibrated with anything more than 2 panels. I never could get it to actually calibrate right with 6 panels either, because it requires enough sun that you have to pretty much do it in the middle of the day, and even when you do that, it seems to be rather hit or miss on whether or not it actually works correctly. (1:24:11), not enough sunlight. It's kind of sad. It's 1:29, but we actually made it to the 3rd or maybe even 4th inverter that time before it told us that apparently this is not enough sunlight. So we're here at 1:31, and it is calibrating along. And just in case we don't know exactly what this sun looks like, I'm going to go out and take a quick video of what the panels are actually seeing right now. So we are getting a little bit of sun. There's no or a little bit of shade. You can see that we do have this tree right up here. I apologize for the lawnmower. We do have this tree right here that is definitely giving us just a little bit of shade, particularly on the east end. This is the west end down here. So the west end is doing pretty well, but as we get to the east end, it's certainly possible that we're going to get more of those no sun things. So we might not be able to actually get it fully calibrated today. And like I said, I don't think I ever had it fully calibrated with the 6 panels. So life will go on if we don't get it fully calibrated, and it'll be just fine. And I just walked back in. It's 1:33, and we're being told that get inverter 2 data failed. So go figure. It's still 1:33. I'm not going to keep filming this. Just be aware that this is a situation that you might run into, and best of luck. But that's the basic process to go through to actually set up a sequence of panels. So just FYI, I completely broke out of the calibration and closed the app, completely get rid of all that, rerun the app, connect, wait for the Bluetooth to connect. Okay, Bluetooth's good there. And see, it's dumping me straight back into calibration. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I don't know that I can actually do method 2. I could try that. I've never actually tried method 2, so let's try that. Let's click on that and see what happens. So it says turn off all circuit breakers that don't belong to the Legion solar system. Leave the main circuit breaker on. Calibration must be performed near solar noon with no cloud cover and clean solar panels for best performance. Don't know that we have that, but let's go ahead and give her a try and see what happens. So turn off all circuit breakers that do not belong to the Legion solar system. This right here is the one that is Legion solar. So let's turn off everything else. Note that these two here are already off. Looks like our UPS just lost power. Okay, now everything is off, but you can see that we still have power there. So then if we hit calibrate, so you can see here that we hit submit then, and let's see what happens. You can see that it's trying to talk to all of these. Sure enough, it detected no usage. So that's promising. And the UPS is still indicating that it does not have any power. It'll be interesting if this works. Guess this is a good reason to have the solar regulator on battery backup. And that did not work. So let's retry it one more time. We are not at solar noon, so it definitely could be related to that. It's about 1:30, 1:45, so we're definitely past solar noon. And you saw from before that we do have a little bit of tree cover that's showing up on the panels on the east end right now. So we'll let this go for a little bit longer and see what happens. You can see that, well, it was just showing that we were on inverter 5, and we've got a lot of blue bar there. So if the stars align and we get super lucky, we might actually make it through this. And we did not get super lucky. I'm going to hit dismiss this time. Okay, and that just takes us back to calibration. So anyway, there's that. We might try it again in the future, but I need to get past this calibration point. So that's kind of the problem right now. If we try to cancel out of that and come back into the app, we got to get past the point of calibration, or else we might not actually be getting any solar energy. Yeah, it's taking us straight back to calibration every time. Now, I will say that it looks like we can skip the calibration. Let's see what happens if we do that. You're attempting to skip calibrating of the solar regulator, so then if we hit confirm, boom. Okay, so now it's trying to sync historic data, and my guess is that there's not much to sync. Yep. Nothing there. So you can see that it's saying that currently we're charging the batteries with 97 watts. Let's just go ahead and, well, I don't think our UPS is too happy. Sounds like it's about out of juice. Let's go ahead and turn the power back on. On the various things. I think that one was one of these guys down here. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, you can see that we are slowly starting to actually use energy in the house. We're not real high yet, obviously. We're only at 105. But let's turn on some more of these breakers. Okay, we now have everything turned back on, and you can see that, let's go ahead and look at the health of everything. So remember, on the ends we have just the inverters themselves. So the inverter right now this is the one on the west end, which should have the best sun, is currently producing 51 watts. Then for the first battery commander, it's solar to battery, so it's producing 80 watts that are going into the battery. Next one is solar to inverter, 43, solar to inverter, 44, solar to inverter, 30, and then solar to battery, 27, and then the final one is producing 48 watts. And so you can see what this is showing also. That's where we're at, though. We have not formally calibrated the solar regulator. We'll have to try that at some later point, but we do have all 7 panels up. Excuse me. And all of them seem to be producing some amount of power at this time.